What is good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Rumboyz Fantasy Network. Today's episode is coming to you live on Sportscaster YouTube. You guys are going to get this a little bit later, so greatly appreciate all the fans over on YouTube that are patient. All 1,600 of our subscribers over there. Make sure you guys are telling your friends about us. We could definitely use all the support out there. Today's episode is also going to be published on the Anchor podcast app, which will then be distributed out to our Spotify, our Apple Podcast, Google, Stitcher, Radio Public, all those good things. All those good things. So we are trying to, climb back onto the airwaves for you guys out there that originally started supporting us way back in the day when we first originally started this podcast, when we first originally started this show, because many people know that have been following us for a long time. That's actually where we got started. But like I mentioned, it's your boy Robbie J. Eat, sleep, check your lineup, repeat. It's about to go down. Spotify, those you guys are listening to us, on the audio version, you guys gotta check us out on sportscaster.com and as well on our YouTube channel, Rumboyz Fantasy Network. You guys get to see all the awesome, green screen work and everything that goes behind the scenes on the video side of the podcast. So let's get into some waiver wire talk, but before we dive right into it, ladies and gentlemen, it's October 1st. Wake up, wake up, wake up. It's the first of the month. It's October 1st, which means that officially Rumtober is here. So I got me, little something here. We're going to do it a little something like this, how we do every single episode of the Rumboyz Fantasy Network. Cheers to me. Cheers to you. All the Rumboys and girls, what it do. Deli deli. Arr. Oof. Little strong there. That one was a little tough. Alrighty, let me twist the cap off this beer. And I'm going to get my waiver wire list up. Tonight you guys are going to have Ty Boogie calling some MLB wild card action. Brewers versus National. He's going to be calling it on Sportscaster. And I will be calling it over on our YouTube channel. So you guys are going to want to, be bouncing between the two. Check out Ty Boogie. Check out myself as we get this all broken down for you guys tonight in terms of baseball. Alrighty, so let's dive right into it. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to grab my list. I do have a list that I did prepare for you guys. So first, we're going to go ahead and we're going to lead off with the quarterbacks. Now, a lot of you guys are probably like, what? Like, why would I take some of these guys? These are just some things that I looked at in terms of positions that were available on the waiver wire and names that were available on the waiver wire. Of course, there's plenty of guys that you could probably get as a quarterback. Danny Dimes. Could be a featured guy in your deeper leagues, so on and so forth. He's not featured in this list. So we're actually going to kick this off with 3 quarterbacks that we're going to go ahead and talk about. My whole list is comprised of guys that are under 60% owned in leagues. I think there may be one that's just a pinch over the 60% owned mark. So with the quarterbacks, I have 3 of them. First one that we're going to start with is Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston owned in about 44% of leagues. And this has been a guy who's gone off the past 2 weeks and has put up points. Now, could Winston go out there and pull this off again for the Tampa Bay Bucks? Tampa Bay Bucks recently did just to get a W. In week 4 after, just barely losing to in the previous week after that they had just barely lost to the Giants. They come out, they put up a 50 burger on the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, Super Bowl contending Rams. They put up a 50 burger, 55 points to 40 points. Uh, and Jameis Winston, he went off during that outing. I believe in sleeper leagues he was a 30 plus point QB in sleeper. Let me double check here what he was looking like on ESPN in ESPN fantasy, because he's definitely a guy. He's definitely a guy worthy of the waiver wire ad. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm all in on him and I became a Jameis Winston truther, because, well, I'm not. I'm not. Uh, but he did, put up. By the way, they're going up against the Saints next. Okay, they're going up against the Saints next, so he's probably going to be able to go out there, put something up against that secondary. He averages about 21.4 fantasy points. Rostered about 44% of leagues, like I mentioned earlier, guys. 40% of leagues. Definitely probably someone that I would take a look at, especially if I'm in that scenario of a Big Ben or a Breeze, where you're dealing with those guys still being out. This season he's been 87 for 139. In terms of his completion percentage, his completions to attempts. I like the kid. 28.8 points against the Giants, then 33.1 against the Rams in ESPN fantasy leagues. He's in the positive in terms of boom or bust. So that's another thing that I would like to toss out in terms of Jameis Winston. He's in the positive when we're talking boom or bust with these quarterbacks. Jacoby Brissett is another name, interestingly enough, that I wanted to bring up. Okay. Especially for you deeper league folks. He's rostered in about 32.2% of leagues. So about 32% of leagues he's rostered in. Projected to go into week 5 with about 21 plus fantasy points for Brissett. He's always been coming out on the positive. He's had more than 18 points in all of his outings. Week 2 was the only time against Tennessee that he had a flat 18. Other than that, week 1 it was 18.6. Week 3, 24.6. Week 4, 24.9. So I really want to see him go and break that 30-point threshold. But he's a guy that I have on my list as someone that maybe you could go out, make your QB2. Who knows? Maybe your QB1 hasn't been getting the job done. Whoever you drafted and you've been rocking with him this long hasn't been getting the job done. Brissett could go out there and he could maybe get the job done for you. He plays against Kansas City coming up here in week 5. I think that could be a viable play. We all know that Kansas City defense allows points. The Detroit Lions almost came away with the W this previous week, playing against the Kansas City Chiefs. So with that being said and with that being stated, I could see Brissett possibly being a viable fantasy play. I'm not going to sit back and say no. Another name that I got to mention, and I feel like I'm mainly just mentioning his name because obviously, when Josh Allen returns, he's going to be a QB that you would probably go get. You may be looking at Andy Dalton over him. Derek Carr could be out there. Mason Rudolph has been doing fairly all right, so to speak. They ran the Wildcat a lot there in Pittsburgh on Monday night. But furthermore, yeah, see, Mason Rudolph wouldn't be a guy that I'd be looking at. But I feel like I'm just mentioning his name because the mania surrounding him. And, of course, we're talking about Gardner Minshew. Now, Gardner Minshew, so far this season, has more fantasy points than Aaron Rodgers. And I know that shocks a lot of people. But Aaron Rodgers hasn't exactly, balled out this year. Gardner Minshew is rostered in about 14.3% of leagues. The kid has moxie. The kid has swagger. Now, how much that reality side of it transfers into fantasy football, I don't think this is a reality meets fantasy football type of situation. He's definitely more so on the boom side than the bust side. He's projected 16.4 fantasy points, but in all of his outings, he's gone out, and he's put up, almost 20 points in week 1. He put up 19.8. 18.4 the following week, 19.9, 18.6. So he hasn't exactly broken that 20-point threshold. I'd like to see him, in the 24s, the 25s. He has Carolina coming up here in week 5. And I got to say that with Kuechly back there, at linebacker, maybe there's reason to worry. But, 2 QB league, he should be perfectly fine as a QB2. You should be A-okay. Just got to shout out some people here in the chat. I see Rumboyz Northeast join. Lumas, what is going on, homie? The homie Sam. Be sure you guys check him out on Sportscaster as well. So that's really all that I'm looking at in terms of my list of quarterbacks. That's really all that I'm looking at in terms of my list of quarterbacks. Is those 3 guys for real? I want to talk about running backs. Now, I only have 2. And I'll go ahead and I'll let me know if you guys are getting like an echo. You hopefully shouldn't be. But what I wanted to go ahead and who I wanted to talk about is Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard is a guy that's rostered in 56.2% of leagues. So there's a chance that you could get him. There's a high chance that you could get him. There's a high chance that he may be available on your waiver wire. And if he is, and if you can, and if it's possible to where you can go and you can grab Jordan Howard, go for it. I don't know how many more times he's going to do what he's done. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know how many times Jordan Howard is going to put up 30-plus points for you in fantasy because Miles Sanders is there. Now, what I do want to state and what I do want to say is that it appears that he's probably getting majority of the touches. He became the lead guy in that backfield in terms of getting the workload, getting the production. I liked Jordan Howard last year when he was a Bear, and he produced for me when he was a Bear. I was mad that in the one league that I did have Jordan Howard rostered, I left him on the bench because he hadn't done much for me all season. That same week on a Thursday night against a Packers run defense. By the way, guys, if you have running backs and they are playing the Packers, let me go ahead and take these out really quick. And they are playing against the Packers, start that running back. Start that running back. Let him spin. The Packers' run defense is nowhere near as impressive as their secondary has been this year. Okay? So with that being said, I don't know how much of that was just the Packers' run defense was that weak that allowed Jordan Howard to perform that way. Game script could change whenever Deshaun Jackson comes back healthy, and of course he's going to be taking the top off of routes, so on and so forth. I don't think that wide receiver coming back eats into Howard's production. He's worth the ad. He's worth the ad if you got a running back on bye or something or the other, and you need a filler. That's what I should have done in my scenario. So Jordan Howard, ladies and gentlemen, rostered in 56.2% of leagues. The next running back that we are going to talk about is Ronald Jones II. rostered in 41.4% of leagues. And an offense where I feel like Peyton Barber is the main guy, and is going to continue continue to be the main guy. Ronald Jones doesn't look like he'd be a bad roster move either. Maybe you could flex him here and there, depending on who they're going up against. Ronald Jones balled out against the Rams, and that was a shocker. That was a shocker to many, especially myself. Once again, they're playing New Orleans next. I don't know if I'm not confident enough to slide Ronald Jones into a starting lineup. He's a guy that I have to be forced to start. I would have to be forced to start Rojo. And I know there's a lot of Rojo truthers out there, and they were probably especially happy when he did what he did this weekend. I'm not at that point. I still think that it's Peyton Barber's backfield. They're pretty much splitting carries equally. So I mean, you're good either way if you have one of these guys. I mean, I feel more confident. I guess I just feel more confident starting Peyton Barber over Ronald Jones. Just it is what it is. Give me 1 second, guys. Beer break. Refreshing. Beer's going to taste really good tonight when my Nationals are whooping up on the Brewers. So, getting into the wide receivers. Now, whenever we do these waiver wire shows, you're probably going to notice that I always go more into wide receivers than I do any other position. It just seems like there's always more of them that you can work with. Rostered in 6.1% of leagues, A.J. Brown has made a fairly solid case as a guy that could go out there and be picked up in your lineups. Now, I get that he's only done it 2 out of the 4 weeks. I know many of you are probably like, yeah, but Corey Davis is available in my league on the waiver wire. What about Adam Humphries? A.J. Brown, it appears, has been the one that makes the most of his touches, and out of that receiving core has just appeared to be the more breakout player. Being that he's only rostered in about 6% of leagues, there's a chance that you could go and get him. There's a chance that you'd be able to go and make a play for this guy. If you're in a league where your waiver works off of $5, I mean, I'm probably only going to spend $2-3 on this kid. I understand, he had the big week, an 11-point fantasy point week against Cleveland in week 1. He's pretty much been a dud in weeks 2 and 3, but then, that breakout against Atlanta with 21.4 fantasy points. He's going to be playing Buffalo, so I'm not starting him against Buffalo because Buffalo does have a really good defense. Believe it or not, people. I know, whenever I say that, people are like, what? The Bills? The Bills have a defense? Yeah, people, the Bills have a defense. So with that being said, with that being stated, I think that A.J. Brown has the more upside out of that receiving core. And he could be a guy that you could go and you could buy low, you could buy cheap. Maybe you don't even have to spend any of your fab budget on him. Let's see. Next up, I have both the guys from Green Bay, MVS and Geronimo Allison. Now, Geronimo Allison being the lesser owned one because MVS is rostered in 66.6% of leagues. And that's the one person in this whole entire list during this whole episode that you'll notice that he's going to be above that 60% threshold. But I had to mention both of these fellas just for the simple fact that Devontae Adams is injured right now. Okay? And we don't know for how long he's going to be out. But we know that bad man Aaron Rodgers is going to have to get the ball to his receivers one way or another. Some way, somehow. And Geronimo Allison, he did his thing last week. He really, really, really did. I think that he is worth a roster spot. Like I said, MVS is also out there. MVS and Allison are going to split the targets that that Devontae Adams was going to get, that he should have gotten. Okay? And that's going to bode well for fantasy owners. That's going to bode really well for fantasy owners. All right? If you had Devontae Adams, go and get one of these two. Go and get one of these two. I know that you probably have already, been scorned by Geronimo Allison. I mean, being that he only got he hasn't done much for you throughout the first 3 weeks, and then in week 4, he goes out and gets 11.9 fantasy points in the ESPN leagues. I believe like 14 something on Sleeper app. But I mean, Marquez Valdez-Scantling though. I mean, another guy, he probably hasn't burnt you too bad because he seems to be a guy that's bouncing on and off the waiver wire is what I've seen a lot. I get that because of the shares of Adams and Jones have been in such high volume. Maybe because Adams is out, they look to run the ball a little bit more. The Jamal Williams is still banged up in that backfield for Green Bay. I just really like either of these two. The ball has to go somewhere. Rodgers has to put it somewhere. Expect for these two guys to go out there and go and eat with Adams being absent. So just wanted to kind of roll those two names into one. Hopefully that helps you guys. We have 3 more receivers that I wanted to talk about. We have 3 more guys that I really want to hit on here in terms of the wide receivers. Deontay Johnson, a guy that the Rumboyz Fantasy Network did interview. You guys can check those interviews out on sportscaster.com. You may have to scroll through our profile because we have a lot of content on there. But those interviews are on Sportscaster. There are also a few of them, not all of them, but a few of them up on YouTube as well. You guys check us out on YouTube and subscribe to us on YouTube. Rumboyz Fantasy Network. Just type in the search bar. Make sure you spell Rumboyz with a Z though. So Deontay Johnson, we interviewed this guy. He was one of the more fairly quiet gentlemen when he walked in the room, and some of that kind of shows. Some of his personality shows in the field. I mean, he did have the early fumble early in the game. Against the Bengals on Monday night on Rumday Night Football is what we call it on our channel, Rumday Night Football. You guys can check that out. We call the games, and he's rostered in 6.3% of leagues. He's rostered in 6.3%. He had a fairly decent outing. He had a fairly decent outing against Cincinnati. Now, I'm not going to sit back and say that I'm going to expect that he does that every time because I'm still awaiting the James Washington and Mason Rudolph connection, being that those guys played at Oklahoma State together. They were both Cowboys together. So I am looking for that to come into fruition for that tandem. But I mean, Deontay Johnson, he's got to be a guy that you possibly look at. Let me just get some stats here for you guys on Johnson. Just one moment. Like I said, I mean, that when I saw that fumble, I was like, it immediately brought me to his to his personality of how quiet of a guy he is. He's not exactly, the most vocal. Out of his 3 outings, he's boomed 2 out of the 3. So he's on average, he's about an 11-point guy. Weeks 1 and 2, he was in the single digits of points, so 2.5 and then 1.7. But then the last 2 weeks against San Francisco and Cincinnati, he's been an 11-point plus guy, 11.8, 11.7. So a little bit of buzz around him. He's a guy that I say, maybe you could go and get. I know that early fumble hurt, and he does occasionally have some ball control issues. He usually recovers when he fumbles, but maybe a guy that you can look at from a fantasy perspective. Mohamed Sanu, owned in 35.2% in leagues. Another receiver that I wanted to talk about. I'm not high on anyone from Atlanta right now. I mean, other than the fact that if you have Julio Jones, you're obviously being put in a position to where you're almost forced to play him. Um, with that being said, and with that being stated, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that everything is good here on Anchor recording because it only records in 30-minute segments. With that being said and with that being stated, I'm only trusting Julio Jones because you pretty much have had to play him because of where you drafted him. I'm not too high on Sanu. Could you maybe go and get him? Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's gonna be available to you. I'm not high on him or Ridley right now. I don't think that those are guys that you need in your lineup. If you are going to go and try and make a push for your playoffs for fantasy Super Bowl. I mean, let's face it, we're all in this for Super Bowls. So far, this whole entire season, he has 24.1 fantasy points. You have guys out there that are putting up that for you already. Last week was his best outing with 9.1 fantasy points. I'm just not feeling it, but maybe you look at it, maybe you don't. We just had to throw it out there for you guys. Final wide receiver that we are going to talk about is Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley, rostered in 20.7% of leagues. He's boomed 1 out of 4 outings. He hasn't busted at all. He's averaging about around anywhere between 6 to 7 fantasy points. Well, deeper leagues, he's a decent pickup for you if you're in a league bigger than 14 or bigger. He's going to be a guy that you can go out there and pick up. Leagues like our Sportscaster League, maybe he's a safe add for you. He's playing up against Tennessee. Matt Barkley's going to be the quarterback, so I wonder about that and I worry about that. But when Josh Allen comes back, maybe he's a guy that you could check out. What's good? Hit up, homeboys. What's good? Alrighty. So we are going to now get into. So I don't really have too many tight ends that I'm seeking to talk about, and that's just being real. I mean, I could go out here and mention Dawson Knox, honorable mention. Rudolph hasn't been getting any targets. I'm just not feeling the tight end position in terms of the waiver wire. Chris Herndon, maybe you go and you scoop up Chris Herndon from the Jets. He should be coming off of his suspension here very, very, very soon. He's rostered at 8.2% of leagues. So I mean, maybe you go and get him. He should be coming off his suspension though very soon. Oh, another guy coming off suspension is Golden Tate. Go and get Golden Tate. Someone probably already has been holding him all 4 games until he's came back. But yeah, definitely want to mention Golden Tate. And you could get him and you could buy low on him right now. You could buy low on him because so many people are probably gone off and forgotten about him and haven't cared that he's gonna be a guy that's available to you. I can almost promise you. So getting into the defenses this week that I wanted to talk about that are probably available in you guys' leagues. By the way, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense has been doing absolutely stellar the last 2 weeks. but they did not make this list, being that they are playing Baltimore next. So the Cardinals rostered in 1.6% of leagues. They're playing Cincinnati. Now, I know they just recently released DJ Swearinger, but I don't think that's as big of a deal. I mean, come on, dude. They're playing Cincinnati. Joe Mixon is awful. Like, maybe you could. They're projected 8.8 fantasy points. Like, I know that it's a leap, and I know that it's a reach, but that's your garbage team of the week because the Dolphins are on a bye. You know, someone already has New England, and they're playing Washington, so you can't go and get them. You know, so it is what it is, guys. I think the Cardinals defense could be decent for you. Also, want to talk about the Tennessee Titans defense, who are going to be playing against the Buffalo Bills. This Titans defense has been fairly stout this season, underneath the coaching of Mike Vrabel, Coach Vrabel, who's a very hands-on coach, and clearly is getting these guys coached in the right direction and getting them tuned up in the right direction. You know, with Matt Barkley back there as quarterback, I like this. As long as Josh Allen isn't the QB, why not? Go for it. Matt Barkley is a significant downgrade from Josh Allen. Okay? A significant downgrade. That's the same kid that robbed the Seahawks blind for a while for some money. And you know, I just favored the matchup. You know, the Titans defense, they've been able to overwhelm some opponents when need be. You know, they made the Browns look terrible in week 1. You know, I know they went for back-to-back losses against the Colts and the Jags, but I mean, then they ran over the Falcons as a defensive unit. I like it a lot. Another defense that I'm looking at, if you're looking to stream a defense, is the Eagles. They're rostered in 42.2% of leagues. You know, and what makes me like them, you know, the Eagles, they've so far they've logged in 3 sacks, 5 takeaways. They've allowed at least 24 points each week, so I mean that's the problem. That's the problem right there. But if Luke Falk is starting and Sam Darnold doesn't have this mono situation figured out, Sam Darnold stop messing with the New York strippers, buddy, then yeah, this defense is playable. If it's Luke Falk back there, I'm with it. And even with Sam Darnold, the pass doesn't really get going on this team. All this team does is pound Le'Veon Bell into the ground. And even he may not last the whole entire season because of the way he's getting pounded into the ground. So you know what? Go ahead, start Philly against the Jets. I think that the Jets are going to be sorry this week. I think Philly can demolish them, go out there, smack them around, have their way with them. I like it. And that's no slight to Jets fans, because I love you guys. I love Jets fans. You guys are awesome. But it is what it is. Dakota, I appreciate that dono over on Sportscaster sending me that 50 ticket foam finger. Greatly appreciated, dilly. So finally, I do want to go ahead and I want to talk about one kicker. There's one kicker that I want to talk about. Coached this kid, Pop Warner, when he played for the Warriors on one of my little brother's team. I played football with his brother AJ. Don't know how we say over here at the Rumboyz Fantasy Network. Fuck cancer. Lost AJ with a battle, fight with leukemia. Rest in peace, man. Let's see. I coached the kid. I know the kid. Know his mom. His mom was my algebra teacher. I'm talking about no other than Joey Sly, guys. I'm talking about no other than Joey Sly. North Stafford High School alumni. I gotta shout out the man. We went to the same school. Went to the same school as his brother. We played on the team together. And man, first off, what an athletic family. What an amazing story. What an amazing journey Joey has had. All-time scoring leader in Virginia Tech history. The man's an amazing kicker. Everyone back home found out, like, oh, so you're in the NFL for the Panthers? Are you a linebacker? Like, no, I'm a kicker. Yep. John Ross is out. Says hit him up, homeboys. Ooh, another sleeper notey. See, so John Ross is out. But go and get Joey Sly, ladies and gentlemen. Kickers' lives matter. All right. If you're in a league where you guys can go and get kickers, go and get Joey. He's rostered in 35.2% of leagues. In the leagues that I have Joey Sly, I've been happy. There's even times where I've needed an extra 2-3 points, and he's got me that extra 2-3 points. So I do just want to show some love to the man, being that I know him, we know him, close to his family. It's just one of those things, and his story is just so touching, especially when you know the family. That's all that I have for you guys today, though. That's all that I have for you today. I greatly appreciate everyone tuning in and enjoying this broadcast, this podcast today. If you have any questions, or even if you just want to message me and debate me on anything that I've had to say, hit us up on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, at Rumboyz, spelled the Z-N-E-T. You guys can also check us out on Patreon. I'm going to get that up and going for you guys. Spotify. I know that I'm getting this up and running for you guys. We're going to be giving you one episode at least once a week, so that you guys can be up to date with the rest of the Rumboyz Nation. If you guys have any other further questions, or you want to meet the rest of the community that listens to us or views us, make sure you check us out on sportscaster.com/Rumboyz. Once again, that's Rumboyz spelled with a Z. Make sure that you follow us on all social media. All social media. All of our socials is at Rumboyz spelled with a Z, N-E-T. And then also subscribe to us on YouTube. As always, we got to sign this out. Cheers to me. Cheers to you. And all the Rumboyz and girls, what it do. Dilly dilly. Eat, sleep, check your lineup, repeat. Y'all know that the Rumboyz Nation got y'all. Dilly dilly, peace.